everyone, and welcome to Spirit Basics, the show for both the beginner and the avid connoisseur of fine spirits. I'm Jennifer Allan.
And I'm Stephen Olson. Today we're talking about sake. Why are we talking about sake on a spirit show? Because we love it. And because there are so many myths and misunderstandings about sake. So many people think it is spirit. So let's talk about what it is. It is an alcoholic beverage made from rice. It is not really wine, although we call it rice wine, and it's okay to think of it as wine because it's great with food. Dale will even refer to it as rice wine. There's nothing wrong with that, but it's made from rice, so technically it's a beer. It's brewed in fermented grain, but it certainly doesn't follow the Bavarian purity laws. It's brewed in fermented grain, brewed and fermented at the same time in the same vat. It's not a spirit either, although certain styles are lightly fortified. So this beverage has become incredibly popular. Recently, it's exploded, and we're using it, this oldest beverage perhaps in the entire world, in our new classic cocktails.
I thought you had said that beer was the oldest beverage.
Well, it probably is, and we've said that before, but whether it is or not, we have historical evidence that a rice-based beer existed in what we know today as China as early as 4000 BC. Now, the process we know today as sake probably happened about 300 AD. That's when we give it its official birthday. But we have evidence of it going back to 300 or 400 BC. It was about pasteurization. That's what changed it in 300. So much for Louis Pasteur in the 1850s inventing pasteurization. And interestingly enough, the filtration process that we learned about accidentally in the 1500s from a home brew and the ash settling through this sake is still used today in spirits all over the world.
Can you tell us how this ancient beverage became so popular in our culture?
Well, certainly a lot of it is because of the emergence of Japanese food, but pre-World War II, we never saw sake. And post-World War II, the servicemen brought it back. In Japan, after the devastation of World War II, there was no rice for a while, and the sake that we did have was either old or not as good, so we'd heat it up to make it taste a little bit better. And that concept of heating sake actually dates back hundreds, thousands of years. There's nothing wrong with drinking sake hot, although the sakes we drink today are cold. The idea is it's winter. It's cold in Japan, all right? So we drink it warm to make it more soothing during the winter time. What we're drinking today that's making it so popular is premium and super premium sake, and we drink them chilled.
Well, let's go to our master mixologist, Dale Degroff, for his take on sake.
My first encounter with sake, this delicate rice wine, was at an inexpensive Japanese restaurant. And of course, I had it hot in a little carafe and drank little hot shots of it. Didn't quite understand what it was all about. And later found out that in fact was a good reaction, because the way to drink really good sake, Daiginjo sake in the upper grades of sake, is icy, icy cold. It's not drunk hot. It's normally drank very cold with your sushi or your other Japanese cuisine. I was challenged in the mid-1990s by a Japanese restaurant that opened, a really high-end restaurant that opened in the Waldorf Astoria in New York City. It was called Inagiku. Inagiku wanted to have a cocktail menu because cocktails were having their rebirth at the time, but they wanted it with a Japanese twist. So they wanted me to use a lot of Japanese products, including sake in many of the recipes. So I came up with my version of the sakatini. And I found when I started working with sake that it's really delicate and you can't handle it too roughly. You got to be very careful what you mix it with because it'll just bury it. And you want the flower and the delicate wine to come through. So I started playing with martini ideas, and I found out that it was actually quite a wonderful match with orange liqueurs, and I used curacao to be exact. I found that it didn't really like lemon that much, but it kind of liked lime. Sake has really come into its own. It's really become a presence, a much wider presence than it ever was before, especially with the emergence of the Pan-Pacific cuisine. Now you get a lot of bartenders who work in these restaurants where they serve this wonderful cuisine, playing with sake recipes and trying to find matches between the food and the drink, and mixing it with a lot of different fruit liqueurs and other spirits, quite successfully in many cases, as a matter of fact. So actually, sake is much more widely available than it ever was before, but it's still best when you drink it icy cold in little drams. Yeah.
If you notice, Dale was drinking his sake out of what appeared to be a shot glass. It's very traditional to serve it out of a small crystal glass, although I like to drink it out of a wine glass to be able to appreciate the aromatics. Ceramics are often used. In a judging, the judges are served their sake in a small porcelain cup, white, with blue concentric circles so they can see the clarity through the glass. But up next, we'll talk about how sake is made.
And our Spirit Insiders, Morgen and Scott, go out to see what they can learn about sake. That's when Spirit Basics continues. Welcome back to Spirit Basics. Right now, we're going to talk about how sake is made. Now, Stephen, earlier you mentioned that sake is not beer, it's not wine, but you have been teaching us that all alcohol falls into one of those two categories.
Yes, I have, and we think of it as wine, and Dale even called it wine because it is elegant, it's delicate, it's floral, and we usually consume it with food like wine. But as I said, it is not technically wine because it is made from grain, brewed and fermented simultaneously in the same vat, so that's why we don't really think of it as beer, okay? The key to this is the magic of the mold called koji, made from the rice.
Now tell us, how many styles of sake are there?
There are many different styles, and they're determined by many different factors. And like we've said for some of the other alcohols, like for example tequila or single malt scotch, there are environmental factors that affect the flavors in this glass, like the water that it's made with, the rice that it's made with, and where that rice is grown, the fermentation yeast, and so forth. But a little bit more like vodka, for example, it's more about process. The processes determine the styles more than anything. Fortification, pasteurization, or lack of either. Fortification meaning adding alcohol. It all comes back to koji, and the main styles are determined by polishing of the rice.
Polishing of the rice. What is that, and why would you want to do that?
Well, think of it this way. It's kind of like, it's milling, basically. What we're doing is removing the bad proteins and the bad fats from the outside of the kernel, concentrating all of the starch, the good starch, in the middle of the kernel, so that when we steam it, it turns into 100% glucose, fermentable sugars, if you will, and that way it ferments perfectly with the koji to create a junmai, or a pure rice sake. Polishing creates these styles by removing, and we're talking about junmai, we're talking about ginjo and daiginjo. These are the words that you've heard before. These are the super premiums and premiums that we drink cold. I know it sounds really complicated, but I'm going to have our spirit guide explain it to you to make it easier to understand.
To make great sake, you're going to polish the rice. You're going to remove a lot of the fatty acids and some of the proteins on the outside of each individual rice grain. And the more you wear away, you put it in a big drum and wear that away. The more you grind away, obviously, the more money you've thrown down the tubes, you've thrown that away. In the case of, let's say, a ginjo sake, when it says the word ginjo, I know that 40% of the weight and volume of each individual rice grain has been worn away in these big drums. If it's a daiginjo, 50%, over half of the weight of this rice grain is now gone, leaving behind the pearl, the essence, the very best stuff, if you will, so I can get a pure flavor out of it. But what really makes sake special is this thing called koji, which is a kind of mold. In most beers, I take starches, I convert them into sugars. Then I let the yeast attack the sugars and convert that into alcohol. Because of koji, I can do both of them at the same time in the same vessel. I can have starches being converted into sugars at the same time the yeast are grabbing whatever available sugars are there and converting them into alcohol all at the same time, also adding a layer of complexity from koji itself, from the mold itself, this thousands of year old process that separates sake from all other beers. I can also determine which sake is which by calling hanjozu the sake where I add a little bit of neutral grain spirit, or junmai is a little more pure, no neutral grain spirit added, but both can be fantastic sakes.
Well, now that we've taken a look at some of the history and origins and had a closer look at the interesting process behind making sake, it's time for an inside look.
Our roving spirit insiders, Morgen and Scott, took a trip to learn more about sake.
Hey guys, we're here at Den 8 for the Iron Chef Sushi Night. Let's go see what we can find out about sake.
Irashaimase, irashaimase, irashaimase.
Aki, tell me, what is going on here this evening?
Tonight is the Iron Chef Night show. we used to call it Iron Chef Night, but now I'm singing with the other partners and then drinking sake with their meals, making some rolls, 3 rolls, and appetizers. It's kind of all kind of stuff.
I've never tried sake. What is sake?
The sake is basically like rice wine. It's made from rice. It just tastes like white wine. It's really good white wine. It's very smooth and really good sake. Tastes like water. It's just so smooth.
Now, how many different types of brands of sake do you have here at Zen8?
We have 12 different kinds of sake, and then we have 2 different kinds of hot sake. So which means 10 different kinds of cold sake at Zen8.
What is the difference? Should you be drinking it cold or warm?
Honestly, if good sake, always chill. Cold is better. Yeah, it's a hot sake. It's hard to taste because it's warm. So it's hard to taste. But it's cold one, you can taste different.
Can you see that? Okay. Put rice on the center, then left to right. 1, 2, 3. We call it the ichi-ni-san.
What type of food goes best with sake?
Best one is sashimi, which is only fish, not a sushi. Sushi goes well, but sashimi is best, I think.
Sake made from rice pretty much goes with everything. Chicken, pork, beef, but especially goes with sushi for sure.
Not just sushi.
Not just sushi, it goes everything.
Sake bomb! Sake bomb! Stop!
We're doing sake bomb right now.
Tell me a little something about the sake bombs.
The sake bombs is actually I invented it. So 5 years ago, first time we opened here at Zen8, 2000. It's a hot summer day, and then we creating something unique here. Use a spear, phone spear, and a shot of sake, and put a little chambord royale.
Hey guys, this was my first time at an Iron Chef sushi night, and it was great. I learned so much about sake and the sake bomb. Back to you guys.
Up next, we continue our look into the world of sake. We'll give you a lesson on how to drink it and how to use it in some of your favorite cocktails. That's when Spirit Basics returns.
Spirit Basics is brought to you in part by Willow Park Wines and Spirits.
Welcome back to Spirit Basics, the show for everyone who wants to learn more about the world's greatest cocktails. Time to take a closer look at how to enjoy sake.
Now, Stephen, earlier you mentioned that sake could be served cold or hot, and I'm sure you're about to say no rules.
No rules.
But what might be some of the more traditional ways to enjoy sake?
It's a great question, and I'll start by saying when I first tried to learn about sake, I realized that it was very, very difficult because of the cultural differences between our world and their world, if you will. And when I first started to teach sake, when I finally felt like I'd learned enough to teach it, the first thing that I do with my audience is try to get everybody to understand the culture, to understand the people, because to understand this beverage, you have to have an appreciation for the people who made it, and an appreciation for these super premiums and premiums, the delicacy, the floral quality. You drink them cold. Now, there's nothing wrong with drinking them hot. I just personally recommend that you don't drink the great ones, the really high-end ones hot. There are certain ones that are designated to be drunk warm. As a matter of fact, in these days, sometimes it even says so on the label.
Well, for more on how to enjoy your sake, we turn to our spirit advisor.
Sake, as you'll notice, is in this case being served in a white wine glass, and it's also being served chilled, because I think any great sake deserves to be served chilled. You can serve it warm, that's fine, but it doesn't bring out all the flavors, all the wonderful character, all the fruit character that shows up in this fascinating rice-based beer, if you will. So I've got it in a white wine glass so I can really smell everything in there, and it maybe because it's in the glass. I find myself constantly thinking, wow, that smells almost fruity like a Riesling, or boy, that smells more like apples like a Pinot Gris, or no, that smells a little peppery like a Gruner Veltliner, and maybe that's a bit annoying. Maybe I should just say it smells like sake, because sake comes in all these different styles. I've seen sake in styles that are almost like Moscato d'Asti. There I go again, comparing it to wine, but it's a little spritzy, a little sweet. It's very soft and round. Or the Niguri style, which is cloudy and a little thicker and a little more, a little richer. Or the Taru style, which Taru can be oak aged, cask aged, slightly yellow, very full, very powerful in fact, and very almost meaty in the mouth, but certainly very earthy in the mouth. The main thing would be that I like to drink it this way, so I should drink it that way as you should drink it any way you want, but you should never pour your own glass. That's very, very improper. You pour into someone else's masu, that's the little wooden box, and then they pour into your glass, and then you both enjoy sake.
Our master mixologist, King Cocktail, Dale Degroff, joins us now with a lesson on how to make a cocktail with sake.
All right, so I called the drink sake to me. Why not? It's cute. Anyway, why are we making drinks with sake? We're making drinks with sake because they go really, really well with the kind of food that we're eating now. We love Pacific Rim. We love this fusion cuisine that is suddenly a part of our lives. I mean, when I was a kid, we were a meat and potatoes kind of country. I mean, the dining possibilities now, even in a small town, are extraordinary from an ethnic point of view. I mean, when I was a kid, you could get, Cantonese and Italo-American. That was the whole story. Now we have Thai, we have Vietnamese, we have different kinds of Chinese, from Sichuan to Cantonese. It's unbelievable the choices we have in those kinds of foods, and especially the sort of grazing kind of eating that a lot of young people are doing now in bars, where you have little meals at the bar perhaps, or whatever, tapas, things like that. Tapas that are fused with something that has a slight Japanese or maybe a Chinese and a little French technique thrown in. Hey, it likes these kinds of drinks. So let's make a drink with sake. I'm going to take a little cube of confit of ginger, just a little bit. I want some of that ginger flavor, a nice combo, and I'm going to put a touch of orange liqueur on top of that confit of ginger. Just a touch of sweetness. I don't want this to be a really sweet drink. I'm going to take my trusty muddler, just give it a little squash and get some of the flavor of the ginger into the flavor of the orange. And then I'm going to take, it's an orange liqueur after all, my base, which is gin, because I'm making a martini here. Sakatini. Everybody's got their version of the sakatini. And the sake, say 2 to 1. 2 parts gin, 1 part sake. I did a couple of sake martini kind of takeoffs called the yin and the yang martini. One was mostly gin and a little sake, and the other was mostly sake and a little gin, and they worked really well. It was a lot of fun. Because I have a sweet ingredient in here, I'm not going to stir this. I'm going to give it a little shake, and I'm going to chill my glass down quickly. And I'm going to garnish with another little piece of that confit of ginger, which is really basically you wouldn't call it a pickled ginger because the pickle says savory. It's sweet. More of a ginger syrup base. Here we go. Opalescent, lovely. We like that. Let's take my little cube of confit of ginger and drop it right in there. A little golden nugget at the bottom. I love it. Sake to me. Oh, that's nice. And if you had some sushi, a little, I don't know, a little of the Japanese fried vegetables, this would be a perfect accompaniment to it. Steve, Jennifer, let's go out to dinner tonight.
Well, after the break, we head into the kitchen to see how you can cook with sake. That's when Spirit Basics returns. Welcome back to Spirit Basics. We're in the kitchen and we're joined by our Spirit Chef, Chef Allan. Konnichiwa.
Arigato, Jennifer-san.
Today we're talking about cooking with sake. Now, because sake is made from rice, you would think that it would just be a no-brainer to pair it with rice dishes.
Well, that might be a little bit of doubling down on flavor. Really what sake is great for, as a spirit particularly, is to infuse other flavors. So you may have rice as a side dish or a part of a dish, but what you're looking for in the sake is to actually add it to other flavors.
Okay, now, because it's such a cultural spirit, like tequila with Mexican food, do you want to strictly keep it with Asian type of foods?
Well, certainly the whole principle of terroir applies. It's from a certain place, it's going to go good with the foods from that place. But the fact of the matter is, in the world today with fusion cooking and people taking ingredients like sake from Asia and using them in North American or European dish, the world is your oyster now. And so the fact of the matter is that you have to have an open mind, but that's really what it's best with.
Okay, well, we have a couple of examples of some dishes here. Can you tell us what we have?
Well, the first dish we have here is some halibut, and that's in a clam and sake broth, and it's got some really, really wonderful Japanese flavors, and there's some miso, and what this illustrates is that sake will go good with the kinds of things that you might associate with Japanese food. A lighter fish, some clam. Here we've got some orzo rather than rice for the starch in the broth, but it's really got some really nice flavors.
And it's a very colorful and lovely dish as well.
Wonderful, yeah.
Now this one looks a little bit more Asian inspired.
Well, this is actually almost more fusion, and this is some rice noodles, and it's got some shiitake mushrooms, some choy, and some chilies. But like with all fusion foods, you're going to have a pantry the size of North America, even though you're cooking Asian food. It's got some balsamic vinegar, it's got some hoisin sauce, it's got some sesame oil, and you can see we've got some sesame seeds around it. So it's a real fusion of an awful lot of Asian flavors, and sake is the key. It actually just infuses everything, and it brings it up in your palate. You can actually smell the alcohol coming off of that.
It smells nice. As we've been learning in this episode, you might not want to pair sake with sushi. It might be better with sashimi. Does the same apply when you're using it in these kind of dishes?
Well, you know, it really does, in the sense that you really want it to be a conduit to bring other flavors to your palate. And it's good for that because it's almost more neutral, and that's really what sort of the rice base brings to it.
So you might want to drink sake before or after the meal?
Absolutely, and with this type of food, you'd want something like a Gewürztraminer, or something that goes good with Asian food.
Great. Well, if you'd like to try any of these recipes at home, just log on to our website for the recipes. Over to you now, Stephen.
Thanks, Jennifer. And of course, you know that miso and soy sauce, both fermented and brewed with koji, like sake. But that's it for this edition of Spirit Basics. Join us next week when we explore the fascinating world of soju, or shoshu, the world's most popular distilled spirit. This is Stephen Olson, and for Jennifer, Allan, and the entire team here at Spirit Basics, we'll see you next week. Kampai.
Special thanks to Willow Park Wine and Spirits, whose dedication to providing knowledge, awareness, and service to their customers has made this show possible.